I never thought a simple piece of paper could change everything, but that's exactly what happened on a quiet Tuesday morning at Sugar Haven. The letter was waiting for me when I opened the store, tucked halfway under the front door like a snake ready to strike. My name is Cashin, but everyone calls me Cass. 5 years ago, I traded my high-powered career as a corporate crisis manager to help run my husband's family candy store. It wasn't exactly a lateral move, but love makes you do crazy things. The paper trembled in my hands as I read it. The store's finances are being mismanaged. If things continue this way, Sugar Haven will be bankrupt within months. Someone who cares. I read it 3 more times, my stomach dropping further with each pass. The morning sun streamed through our storefront windows, catching the dust motes dancing around our display of handmade chocolates. Everything looked normal, peaceful even. But something felt very, very wrong. "Morning, darling." My mother-in-law Margot's voice rang out as she swept into the store, perfectly coiffed as always. "Those display cases need cleaning before we open." I quickly stuffed the letter into my pocket. "Margot, do you have a minute? There's something we should discuss." She barely glanced my way, busy adjusting a row of lollipops. "Can it wait? The morning rush will start soon. It's about the store's finances, Dash." "Oh, not this again." She turned to face me, her smile tight. "Cashin, dear, I've been running this store since before you were born. Everything is fine. But what if it's not? Maybe we should look at the books together, Dash." "The books are my responsibility," she cut in sharply. "Your job is to manage the front of house and keep the customers happy. That's what you're good at." The bell above the door chimed as my husband Eli walked in, bringing with him the scent of coffee and his usual easy smile. "Morning, loves." "Mom, those new display cases you ordered arrived. They're gorgeous." "New display cases?" I asked. "I thought we agreed to hold off on any major purchases this quarter." "These were necessary," Margot said smoothly. "First impressions matter in retail. Speaking of which, I've hired a new assistant to help with the afternoon rush. Lila starts tomorrow." "Wait, what?" I stared at her. "We didn't discuss hiring anyone." "We're discussing it now," she replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Eli agrees we need the help, don't you, sweetheart?" Eli nodded, already distracted by his phone. "Whatever you think is best, Mom." I watched them, this mother and son duo, who could so casually make decisions that affected all of us without even consulting me. The anonymous letter burned in my pocket like a hot coal. "I need to check something in the office," I said, turning away before either could respond. As I walked to the back of the store, I heard Margot's voice. "Oh, and dear, remember we have that meeting with the bank tomorrow." I froze mid-step. What bank meeting? Why hadn't anyone mentioned this to me? Standing there among the shelves of candy and childhood dreams, I suddenly felt like an outsider in my own life. Something was happening at Sugar Haven, something beyond normal family business drama. The letter writer knew it, and now I knew it too. I pulled out my phone and texted my friend Claire, who'd quit working here 6 months ago. "Need to talk. Something's not right at the store." Her response came quickly. "Finally figured it out, huh? Meet me for coffee after your shift. There's a lot you need to know." I slipped my phone back into my pocket, my heart racing. Whatever was going on, I had a feeling this was just the beginning. And for the first time since leaving my old career, I felt that familiar surge of adrenaline that came with unraveling a crisis. "Game on, Margot. Game on." Claire was already waiting at our usual corner table in Brewster's when I arrived, 2 steaming mugs in front of her. The afternoon sun caught the worry lines around her eyes as she watched me approach. "You look like hell," she said, pushing a coffee toward me. "Thanks for sugarcoating it." I slumped into the chair, exhausted after a day of fake smiles and pretending everything was fine. "You were right about leaving Sugar Haven when you did. What finally tipped you off?" I pulled out the anonymous letter and slid it across the table. Claire read it, her expression darkening. "Well, shit. Though I'm not surprised. You should see what Eli just bought." She turned her phone toward me, showing an Instagram post. My husband stood proudly next to a brand new Tesla, Margot beaming beside him. The timestamp showed it was posted an hour ago. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. "We can't afford that. We literally just had a conversation about cutting back on expenses." "That's not all," Claire said, scrolling through more photos. "Designer clothes, fancy dinners, weekend trips. He's been living large for months now. With what money? I whispered, more to myself than to her. The store's barely breaking even. Remember that inheritance you got from your aunt last year? The one you were saving for emergencies. My blood ran cold. He wouldn't. Check your joint account. With trembling fingers, I pulled up our banking app. The inheritance money was still there, but there was something else, a series of large transfers from our business account to an unfamiliar number. What's this account? Claire asked, peering at my screen. I don't know. I don't have access to it. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. But I bet Margot does. Claire's expression softened. Honey, you need to wake up. This isn't just about the store anymore. They're playing you. But why? I gave up everything to help them. My career, my independence dash. Because you let them, she cut in. You're so busy trying to prove yourself worthy of their precious family legacy that you can't see what's really happening. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Eli. Where are you? Mom needs help with inventory. She needs help with inventory because she just fired 2 more experienced staff members last week, Claire said, reading the message upside down. Replace them with minimum wage teenagers who don't know a truffle from a Tootsie Roll. I stood up, gathering my things. I should go. Cass, wait. Claire grabbed my wrist. Remember when I quit? It wasn't just because of Margot's attitude. I found something in the office files, something that didn't add up. But when I tried to tell you, you weren't ready to hear it. And now I think you are. Meet me tomorrow morning before the store opens. Bring your laptop and the store's tax returns from last year. I hesitated. Those are in Margot's office. She keeps it locked. Claire's smile was sharp. Good thing I made a copy of her key before I left. Back at the store, I found Eli and Margot huddled together in the office, speaking in hushed tones. They jumped apart when I entered. Where have you been? Margot demanded. We have that bank meeting tomorrow, and these numbers need to be perfect. What bank meeting? I asked, watching their faces carefully. Just routine business, Eli said quickly. Nothing to worry about. Then you won't mind if I join you? Mother and son exchanged glances. That won't be necessary, Margot said smoothly. You focus on training the new girl tomorrow. Lila needs a proper introduction to how we do things here. I nodded, playing along. But as I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of papers on Margot's desk, loan applications with Sugar Haven listed as collateral. That night, after Eli fell asleep, I slipped out of bed and grabbed his phone. The password was still my birthday. At least that hadn't changed. What I found in his recent emails made my heart stop. Tomorrow's meeting wasn't routine at all. It was about refinancing a massive debt I knew nothing about. And my inheritance account was listed as potential collateral. I looked at my sleeping husband, this man I thought I knew, and made a decision. Tomorrow morning, I'd meet Claire and finally learn the truth. But first, I had a stop to make. At the bank where I kept my inheritance, to move it somewhere safe. Let the games begin. The bank opened at 8, but I was there at 7:30, pacing outside like a burglar casing the joint. By 9, my inheritance was safely transferred to a new private account. By 9:15, I was sitting in Claire's car outside Sugar Haven, staring at the store's tax returns spread across her dashboard. Holy shit, I whispered, running my finger down the columns of numbers. These can't be right. Oh, they're right, Claire said. Just not legal. Look at the supplier invoices. She pulled out more papers, showing me identical invoices with different amounts. One set matched the tax returns, the other showed much higher numbers. The difference was staggering. Margot's been cooking the books, I said, my mouth dry. But why? The store's been profitable for years. Has it? Claire raised an eyebrow. Or has she just been really good at making it look that way? The store's front door opened, and a young woman with bright red hair stepped out to sweep the sidewalk. Lila, Margot's new hire. She looked up, caught my eye, and quickly looked away. That's weird, I muttered. She's not supposed to start until today. Looks pretty comfortable for her first day, Claire observed. My phone buzzed. Eli calling. I ignored it. I need to get inside before they wonder where I am. Cass. Claire grabbed my arm. Be careful. You're not dealing with amateurs here. Inside, I found Margot showing Lila around the store like they were old friends. Lila's movements were too confident, too familiar with the space. Good you're here, Margot said brightly. Lila's been helping me organize the new inventory system. Such a quick learner. Really? I leaned against the counter. And when exactly did she learn it? A flicker of something, worry? Crossed Margot's face before her smile returned. Lila's been helping out informally for a few weeks. I wanted to make sure she was a good fit before making it official. Interesting. I turned to Lila. And what did you do before this? She started, but Margot cut her off. Shouldn't you be checking on that order for the Johnson wedding? It needs to be ready by noon. Actually, I said, not moving. I'd love to hear about Lila's experience. Especially with bookkeeping. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Lila's eyes darted between us like she was watching a tennis match. Cashin. Margot's voice was steel wrapped in silk. A word in my office? Once inside, she closed the door with deliberate calm. I don't appreciate you interrogating my employees. And I don't appreciate being lied to about the store's finances. Her laugh was sharp. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone, showing her the photo I'd taken of the doctored invoices. Want to explain these? The color drained from her face. Where did you get those? Does it matter? What matters is what they show: fraud, tax evasion, and God knows what else. Is this why you've been pushing so hard to get access to my inheritance? To cover your tracks. You don't understand, Dash. Then make me understand. I slammed my hand on the desk. Because from where I'm standing, you and Eli have been systematically lying to me while trying to steal my money. The office door opened. Eli stood there, his face ashen. Mom? The bank called. They're denying the loan. Margot sank into her chair. That's not possible. We had an agreement. They found irregularities in our paperwork. His eyes met mine. What did you do? Me. I laughed, the sound hollow. Why don't you ask your mother about the fake invoices? Or better yet, ask Lila. She seems to know more about this place than I do, and I'm supposedly co-managing it. Cass, please. Eli stepped toward me. Whatever you think is happening, Dash. Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop lying. I moved my inheritance this morning. You can't touch it. Margot's head snapped up. You what? And I have copies of everything. The real books, the fake invoices, all of it. So here's what's going to happen. Either you both start telling me the truth right now, or I walk straight to the IRS. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Eli spoke, his voice barely a whisper. Mom, tell her. Margot looked between us, her carefully constructed world crumbling. When she spoke, her words hit me like physical blows. Sugar Haven has been insolvent for 3 years. Everything, the loans, the fake books, it was all to keep us afloat until we could access your inheritance. And Lila, my accountant's daughter, she's been helping us manage the situation. I looked at my husband, this stranger wearing Eli's face. How long have you known? His silence was answer enough. I spent the night at Claire's, ignoring the flood of texts and calls from both Eli and Margot. By morning, I had 18 missed calls and 1 email with the subject line, Family Emergency Meeting, 9 a.m. The irony of them finally including me in a meeting wasn't lost on me. When I walked into Sugar Haven at exactly 9, the store was still dark. Voices drifted from the back office, sharp and urgent. I found them all there, Margot behind her desk, Eli pacing, and Lila perched nervously in the corner with a laptop. You came, Eli said, relief washing over his face. Don't. I held up my hand. Just tell me what this is about. Margot cleared her throat. We have a proposal. A way to save everything. Everything you've been lying about? The store is salvageable, she pressed on. With the right investment, Dash. You mean my inheritance. It would be an investment in your future too, Eli jumped in. We could restructure, make you a proper partner, Dash. I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Now you want to make me a partner? After 3 years of treating me like a glorified cashier. 1/3 ownership, Margot said quietly. Equal partnership with Eli and me. The room went silent. Even Lila stopped typing. Show me the real numbers, I said. All of them. Lila turned her laptop around. The screen showed years of declining sales, mounting debt, and desperate attempts to keep up appearances. The store hadn't turned a real profit since before I married Eli. Why didn't you tell me? I asked him. I could have helped. It's literally what I used to do for a living. Mom said dash he started, then stopped, looking trapped. I said we could handle it, Margot finished. This store was my life before you came along. I couldn't just dash. Just what? Trust me? Accept that someone else might know better. The old anger rose in my throat. You'd rather commit fraud than let me help? We did what we had to do, she snapped. To protect our legacy. Your legacy? I stepped closer to her desk. What about my legacy? The money you're so desperate to get your hands on, that was my aunt's legacy to me. The only family member who ever truly supported me. And now you can support your new family, Margot said, her voice softening. Isn't that what marriage is about? Sharing everything. The manipulation was so obvious it almost made me laugh. Like you've shared everything with me? Cass, please. Eli moved toward me. We can fix this. Together. I looked at my husband. Really looked at him. The man I'd given up my career for, who'd let his mother systematically push me aside while plotting to take my inheritance. Okay, I said finally. I have some conditions. Hope flickered across their faces. First, Margot steps down. Completely. No more secret books. No more hiring decisions. No more control. Absolutely not dash, she started, but I cut her off. Second, we bring in an independent auditor. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. That's not necessary. Lila spoke up for the first time. I can dash. You can leave, I said flatly. Now. She looked at Margot, who nodded slightly. After she left, I continued. Third, Eli moves out until we figure this out. I need space to think clearly. What? His face crumpled. Cass, no dash. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them. Margot stood slowly, her face tight with fury. You ungrateful little dash. Mom, don't, Eli warned. No, let her finish, I said. Let's hear exactly what she thinks of the woman whose money she's been plotting to steal. The silence stretched between us like taffy, sweet and dangerous. Finally, Margot spoke, her voice trembling with rage. This store was successful long before you came along, and it will be successful long after you're gone. I smiled, feeling strangely calm. No, Margot, it won't. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. Because I just forwarded copies of your creative bookkeeping to the IRS and the bank. I'm sure they'll find it fascinating reading. The color drained from both their faces. You're bluffing, Margot whispered. I turned to leave, pausing at the door. Want to bet your legacy on that? I couldn't sleep that night, so I went back to Sugar Haven around midnight to clear my head. The store always felt different after hours. Peaceful, almost honest in its emptiness. But as I approached, I noticed a light on in the back office. Through the window, I saw Eli and Lila huddled close together over the computer, their faces illuminated by the screen. His hand was on her shoulder, and she was nodding intently at whatever he was saying. My stomach lurched. I used my key to enter quietly, catching fragments of their conversation. Can't tell her about this, Eli was saying. It would destroy everything. But she already knows about the books, Lila replied. Maybe if we just dash. No. His voice was firm. Mom's right. Some things have to stay buried. I stepped into the doorway. What things? They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Lila's face went white, and Eli's expression cycled through surprise, fear, and something that looked suspiciously like relief. Cass, he started. This isn't dash. What it looks like? I moved closer, noting the spreadsheets on the screen. Then tell me what it is, Eli. For once, just tell me the truth. Lila grabbed her bag. I should go dash. Stay. My voice was ice. I want to hear exactly what needs to stay buried. They exchanged glances, having one of those silent conversations that people share when they're keeping secrets. Finally, Lila spoke. Show her, she told Eli. She'll find out anyway. He slumped in defeat, turning the laptop toward me. What I saw made my knees weak. A second set of books, going back years before I joined the business. Not just creative accounting, but systematic fraud. And at the bottom of each year's records, 2 signatures, Margot Rivers and my husband's. How long? I whispered. Since Dad died, Eli admitted. The store was in trouble and Mom. She couldn't let it fail. Said it would kill Dad all over again if we lost it. So you just went along with it? Year after year. I tried to fix it. His voice cracked. That's what Lila's been helping me with. She knows accounting, and I thought maybe if we could straighten things out before anyone found out. Before I found out, you mean. The pieces clicked into place. That's why Margot hired her. Not to help with the store, but to cover your tracks. Lila stood up straighter. It's not like that. I really was trying to help Dash. By lying to me? By helping them steal my inheritance. No. Eli reached for me, but I stepped back. The inheritance thing, that was Mom's idea. I never wanted Dash. But you went along with it. I cut in. Like you always do. He fell silent, and in that silence, I heard everything he couldn't say. Every choice he'd made, every lie he'd told, every time he'd chosen his mother's approval over my trust. I'm having panic attacks, he said quietly. About the store, about Mom, about everything. Lila's been helping me deal with it. That's all. And you couldn't tell me this because you would have tried to fix it. He ran his hands through his hair in frustration. Like you fix everything. And I needed to prove I could handle it myself. I looked at my husband, really looked at him. The boy trying to be a man, forever caught between his mother's expectations and his own inadequacies. And I felt something inside me break. I'm done, I said softly. What? I'm done fixing things. Done pretending we're partners when you've never trusted me enough to be one. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Lila? The anonymous letter warning about the store's finances. Was that you? She nodded slowly. Someone had to do something. I laughed, the sound hollow in the empty store. Well, congratulations. You did something all right. Cass, wait. Eli called after me. Where are you going? I paused at the door, looking back at the ruins of my marriage scattered across a computer screen. To pack my things. I suggest you do the same before the IRS shows up. The bell above the door chimed as I left, its cheerful sound a final, bitter reminder of all the sweetness I'd thought we were building together. 3 days after I left, Margot showed up at Claire's apartment where I was staying. She didn't look like the polished matriarch I knew. Her hair was unkempt, her clothes wrinkled. She clutched a manila envelope like a lifeline. The IRS is coming tomorrow, she said without preamble. We need to talk. I let her in more out of curiosity than compassion. Claire made herself scarce, squeezing my shoulder as she left. Where's Eli? I asked. At his sister's. Margot's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. I have a proposal. Another one? The last one worked out so well. She spread documents across Claire's coffee table. We can still save the store. If we act fast, we can restructure everything before Dash. Before what? Before you go to jail for tax fraud. Her face hardened. Is that what you want? To see your husband in prison. The question hit me like a physical blow. Don't you dare put this on me. You did this. You and Eli. We did it for the family. She stood up, pacing. Everything I've done has been to protect what my husband built. What we built. By destroying it. By saving it. She whirled on me. You think you're so much better than us with your corporate background and your crisis management skills. But you don't understand what it means to protect a legacy. I laughed bitterly. A legacy of lies? A legacy of survival. She sat down heavily. The store was all Robert had left when he died. His dream. His heart. I couldn't let it die too. For a moment, I saw her clearly, not as the manipulative mother-in-law, but as a widow desperately trying to hold on to her husband's memory. It didn't excuse anything, but it explained so much. I can't help you, Margot. You can. She pulled out another document. Sign over your inheritance as an investment. We'll make you full partner, equal share with Eli. I'll step down completely. Why should I believe you? Because I'm desperate. The admission seemed to cost her physically. Because Eli loves you. Because Dash. My phone buzzed, a text from Eli, don't sign anything. Coming over. 10 minutes later, he burst in, looking wild-eyed. Mom, stop. It's over. Eli, please, Dash. I confessed. He wouldn't meet either of our eyes. To the IRS. This morning. About everything. The silence that followed was deafening. You did what? Margot whispered. I couldn't take it anymore. The lying, the pressure. He finally looked at me. I'm sorry, Cass. For all of it. I felt oddly hollow. What happens now? They're charging me with tax fraud. Mom too, probably. The store. He swallowed hard. They're seizing everything. Margot crumpled into herself. Decades of careful control shattering. You fool. You stupid, weak fool. Mom dash. Get out. Her voice was ice. Both of you, get out. I gathered my things, watching as she clutched the worthless documents to her chest. At the door, Eli caught my arm. I did it for you, he said softly. To prove I could be honest. No. I pulled away. You did it for yourself. Just like I'm doing this for myself. Doing what? I handed him an envelope of my own divorce papers. I filed yesterday. Cass, please. His voice broke. We can start over. Clean slate. That's the problem, Eli. You always want to start over instead of fixing what's broken. I stepped into the hallway. Good luck with the IRS. Behind me, I heard Margot's quiet sobs and Eli's attempts at comfort. The sound followed me down the stairs, a requiem for all our broken dreams. Outside, my phone buzzed again. An email from my old firm responding to the resume I'd sent last week. Position available immediately. When can you start? I looked back at Claire's building, where the remains of my marriage were scattered across a coffee table. Then I looked at my phone, at the chance to reclaim my old life. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply walking away. I typed my response. I can start tomorrow. The news broke on a Tuesday morning. I was settling into my new office at Crawford & Associates when my phone exploded with notifications. Sugar Haven's windows were papered with official seizure notices, and local news crews clustered outside like vultures. I shouldn't have gone, but something pulled me there. Maybe closure, maybe morbid curiosity. By the time I arrived, Margot was giving an impromptu press conference on the sidewalk. This business has served this community for 3 generations, she was saying, her voice steady despite everything. We will fight these baseless accusations, dash. Baseless? I couldn't help myself. Is that what we're calling tax fraud now? The reporter's head swiveled toward me like hungry sharks scenting blood. Margot's face went white. Cashin. This isn't the place, dash. Actually, it's the perfect place. I moved closer, feeling the cameras following me. Why don't you tell them about the 2 sets of books? Or how you tried to steal my inheritance to cover your tracks? You vindictive little dash, she caught herself, aware of the audience. Everything I did was to protect this store. No. I was surprised by how calm I felt. Everything you did was to protect your ego. The store was just collateral damage. Like you're any better? Her composure cracked. You ran back to your corporate job the minute things got difficult. You never cared about Sugar Haven. I cared enough to tell the truth. The truth? She laughed bitterly. The truth is, you were never good enough for my son or this family. You were just waiting for an excuse to destroy us. Mom, stop. Eli pushed through the crowd, Lila trailing behind him. This isn't helping. Oh, look who finally showed up, Margot sneered. The prodigal son and his little accomplice. Lila stepped forward. Actually, I'm here as a representative of the IRS investigation team. She pulled out a badge. We have some additional questions about certain transactions. The silence that followed was deafening. Margot's face cycled through shock, betrayal, and finally, defeat. You were working for them? She whispered. All this time. Since the first red flag was raised, Lila confirmed. Though your daughter-in-law's evidence made our job much easier. Margot turned to me, realization dawning. The anonymous letter. That was you. No. I smiled slightly. That was Claire. Turns out she kept better records than you did. You planned this, Eli said quietly. All of it. Actually, I didn't. I just stopped covering for you. I looked between them, my husband and his mother, united in their delusions until the very end. You did this to yourselves. Please, Margot's voice cracked. We can still fix this. Together, as a family dash. We were never a family. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Margot? The store's success wasn't your legacy. The truth is, it was failing long before I came along. You just couldn't admit it. As I walked away, I heard Lila beginning to read them their rights. The reporters shouted questions, their cameras flashing like lightning in a storm. but I didn't look back. My phone buzzed, a text from Claire. "Karma's a bitch, isn't it?" I looked up at the Sugar Haven sign, remembering the day I'd first walked through those doors, full of hope and dreams of family. Now those dreams lay shattered like sugar glass, but something stronger had emerged from the wreckage. Me. Another text came through, this one from Eli. "I never meant for any of this to happen." I typed back, "I know. That's the problem." Then I blocked his number, straightened my jacket, and walked toward my car. Behind me, I could hear Margot's voice rising in protest, Eli's attempts to calm her, and the steady click of handcuffs. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about walking away and letting them destroy themselves. I had a meeting to get to, after all. Life goes on, even when fairy tales end. And this time I was writing my own story. 1 year later, I stood outside the empty shell of Sugar Haven, watching workers take down the sign that had hung there for 3 generations. The late autumn wind carried the scent of dying leaves and change. Claire joined me, 2 coffee cups in hand. Feeling nostalgic? Not really. I accepted the coffee, noting how the storefront's faded paint matched the gray sky. Just thinking about karma. Speaking of which, she nodded toward an approaching figure. Eli, looking older and thinner, his designer clothes replaced by worn jeans and a work shirt. "I'll give you 2 a minute," Claire said, squeezing my arm before walking away. Eli stopped a few feet from me, hands shoved in his pockets. "You look good. Corporate crisis management suits me better than candy." I studied him. "How's your mother?" "Living with my sister in Ohio. The court-mandated therapy is helping." He cleared his throat. "The sentencing is next week." I nodded. We both knew he was facing probation while Margot would likely serve time. The justice system had its own sense of karma. "I got your email," I said. "About the new business venture. It's different this time." He pulled out a business plan, clearly prepared for this moment. A small bakery, completely transparent finances. No family involvement. "I've been taking business classes, learning to do things right." "Why tell me?" "Because you were right. About everything." He looked up at the empty store. "I spent so long trying to protect something that was already broken. I broke the only thing worth saving." The wind picked up, scattering leaves around our feet. In the distance, a truck backed up to load the dismantled sign. "I'm not asking for another chance," he continued. "Just an opportunity to prove I've changed. As business partners, nothing more." I took the business plan, feeling its weight, literal and metaphorical. "You know I'm engaged now." "I know. Claire told me." He's a lucky guy. A year ago, this conversation would have torn me apart. Now it felt like closing a book I'd read long ago, familiar but no longer personal. "I'll look it over," I said, tucking the plan into my bag. "But I have conditions." "Name them." "I'm silent partner only. No involvement in daily operations." I met his eyes. "And you get therapy for your anxiety." "Real therapy, not just confiding in employees." He flinched but nodded. "Already started. 3 months now." My phone buzzed, a crisis at work needed attention. As I turned to leave, Eli called after me. "Do you ever regret it?" "How things ended." I looked back at Sugar Haven one last time. Through the empty windows, I could almost see echoes of what we'd been, young, in love, full of dreams about family and legacy. But I could also see what we'd become. Lies, manipulation, broken trust. "I regret that it had to end that way," I said finally. "But I don't regret ending it." He nodded, understanding. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For all of it." "I know." I smiled slightly. "That's why I'm considering your proposal." As I walked away, I passed the workers loading the last pieces of the Sugar Haven sign into their truck. One fragment caught my eye, the word "sweet" in faded gold letters. My phone buzzed again. A text from Claire. "Dinner tonight to celebrate your promotion?" I typed back, "Yes. And I have an interesting business proposal to discuss." Sometimes karma isn't about revenge or justice. Sometimes it's about finding the courage to close one door and open another. Sometimes it's about learning that the sweetest victories aren't won through destruction, but through reconstruction of yourself, your boundaries, your future. I glanced back one final time. Eli was still standing there, watching the workers, looking both lost and found. We caught each other's eye and exchanged small nods. Not quite forgiveness, not quite friendship, but something like understanding. Then I turned away, heading toward my car and my next crisis, leaving Sugar Haven and its bitter memories behind. After all, some things are better left in the past. But some things deserve a second chance. On the right terms, with the right boundaries, and with clear eyes about what's really at stake. Sweet karma indeed.